Thanks for tuning in today. I've changed my set today, if you can't tell, just up here in the living room so I can keep an eye on my little dog here. But today I've got a very special guest with me, and that's Rod Mawhood. Thanks for taking the time to join me today, Rod.
Andrew, no problem. I get it all the time, Andrew. No problem. Thanks for having me.
I got your name right the first time, but the second time, I don't know what happened there. It sounds like, from what I'm gathering, team sports may be the last to be allowed. Does that seem right?
Absolutely, and team physical sports at that. It's an interesting time, Andrew. You know it, I know it. I've read some things about and had some interviews regarding minor hockey, but also at the pro level. You're a big NHL and a big Habs fan. I know they're talking about no spitting on the ice. It's just something that happens with sports. Any sports you play, unfortunately, we all do that from playing sports, and no scrums after whistles. I mean, obviously fighting is way, way down from years ago, but now they're saying the linesmen can't engage with players, the players can't engage with other players. It is going to be a different sporting world when hopefully we get back to normal.
Is that a recent development in terms of the fighting and the scrums, that kind of stuff? That's the first time I'm hearing about that, actually.
I read a story earlier this week on the Score app, and just saying that and you don't think of those things, right? It's just something new. A player drinks some water and then spits it on the ice, right? And it gets on the bench, it gets on the boards. And yeah, the scrums is what they're saying. If they come back, there's going to be some strict rules until we're clear with COVID that's going to be implemented.
Now, if I didn't let folks know already, Rod, you currently are the announcer for the Niagara IceDogs. You've been here since day one, and I just learned the other day that you haven't missed a single home game. Is that right?
Never missed a single home game in 13 seasons. It's been a fun ride, and something I look forward to. Usually twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And it's you think of some of the players that are now in the NHL that have come through and basically started their serious hockey careers here in Niagara. It's been awesome.
Now, for the folks that don't know, you've also had a chance to work with the Toronto Raptors, the Toronto Rock lacrosse team. You've had some exposure and some work in some major sports, but what's kind of drawn you to junior hockey and to kind of find like what seems like home for you here in St. Catharines?
Unlike most media members, I'm, very humbled by this. I had a chance, my first job in the business. I was very young. I was 19 years old, and I got hired by the largest radio station in Canada, and 680 News in Toronto. And you know what? I got fed to the wolves right away, in a good way. I got to cover all the major sports, and during all my time in Toronto, I went from radio to television. I worked at the Score television network. During that time, the then program director which was Astral Media back then, 610 CKTB out of St. Catharines, they kept saying, when are you going to come home? When are you going to come home? And despite the fact I was working in Toronto, I still lived here in Niagara and St. Catharines and made the trek all the time. And then finally, it was 2009. I decided to come back home and get involved. Obviously, by then I was already doing the IceDogs announcing. And what I like about junior hockey in particular is these guys are trying to make it to the next level. And they work their butt off every night. Whereas we all hear in the pros, some nights, some guys take nights off. But with junior hockey, these guys are working, trying to get to that next level. And that's one thing that drew me to junior hockey. And I had a chance to do some Mississauga IceDog games, and before that, Toronto St. Michael major games announcing in Toronto. So there was a connection to junior hockey, and when the IceDogs moved here from Mississauga, I got reached out to and went from there.
So when the IceDogs came here, was it kind of like, I don't know, quote, a godsend for you to be able to? This was your opportunity to come back home.
I mean, a little bit. I was in Toronto for the first 2 years, but it was something. You know what? I'm a big family guy. I don't have any siblings. My parents were getting older. That trek to Toronto all the time was not a fun one on the QEW. So I was grateful that I got the opportunity.
As I mentioned earlier, it was a possibility that my pug Sherman was going to make a guest appearance here. He looks like he's starved for attention. So here he is. This is Sherman. So
Sherman,
say hi, buddy. Sherman, yeah.
He's a good-looking guy. Sherman's a good-looking guy.
He takes after his mom. That's what I'm going to say.
There you go.
So I don't know. I mean, I've thought about this proposal to Bill and Denise Burke about changing the team name to the Niagara IcePugs, but I don't think they're that intimidating.
Yeah.
So that logo,
it might not work.
I think the logo is going to remain.
Yes.
Yeah, so Rod, with the Ice Dogs, you just mentioned there something interesting about junior hockey players. I think that's why a lot of folks flock to a junior team, especially here in Niagara, where hockey has been such a big thing for so long. So you mentioned players playing their hearts out every single night. They're not being paid right now. That makes me think about the future of the CHL and the OHL season. So are the Ice Dogs, as far as you know, are there any challenges in terms of waiting to have this next season start?
Yeah, I've had a chance to speak with owner Bill Burke, and they hope there's some normalcy. I wouldn't be surprised. You said you heard that interview with minor hockey. If fans are allowed in, they're going to have to be every 6 feet, only so many allowed in the arena. I don't think, Andrew, we're going to see anything quote unquote normal until 2021. So maybe the Ice Dog seasons, the CHL, the OHL season will start a little later, and fans won't be allowed in until, as Bill has said in interviews before, I've heard him, he thinks maybe until there's a vaccine, which is, depending on what doctor or medical professional you listen to, could be a year away. So that was back in March or April. So does that mean we don't have a vaccine until March or April of 2021? A lot of question marks remain.
When it comes to what you do, would you say that announcing, you kind of help clearly to set the tone and the atmosphere for the games?
I try to. I want to bring that joy, that excitement, and what I'm feeling about announcing and covering this team to the fans. And what brings me the most joy is speaking with players from the past that have come through here, and mention that they appreciated how I announced and how I brought excitement to them sitting on the bench or through introductions. And I feel that's what my job is to bring a level of excitement. When you're talking about sports, when you're talking about hockey, it's not a boring thing. So why make it boring? Bring life to it, bring excitement to it. And I try to do that every night or a couple nights a week at Meridian Center.
Well, it certainly has been noticeable. I mean, it wouldn't be the same to not hear your voice in that rink at this point. It's the only voice the Ice Dogs have ever known. Do you have a routine that you have before every game? I mean, I always kind of wonder if, not just the players, but the media, like, do you have a routine that you like to get yourself in the right mind frame?
I guess more homework research. I'm big just because my last name somehow gets mispronounced when I'm out of town and things like that. So my routine is try to get to the arena 90 minutes before, go into the media room, grab the media notes. Sometimes there is pronunciation guides in the media notes. Sometimes there isn't. And sometimes I've heard different players' names pronounced 4 different ways. So I usually, if there's a question mark surrounding a player, I sometime in the media room speak with a member of the visiting team, but also sometimes just go to the locker room or change room and say, hey, just want to make sure, is it Andrew Thompson or is it Andrew Thompson? Like, you know what I mean? Just, you don't know. And some players like it. And I'll tell you, some players over the years have changed how they want their name announced a year or two later. So it's interesting.
It must have been a little bit strange announcing Keough Thomas's name. He scored a few goals in, I think, what was Niagara's last game against Peterborough. Mm-hmm. Was that a bit of a weird experience for you, announcing Keough's goal without as much enthusiasm?
A little bit, but I tried to up it a little bit. I don't know if you noticed, but I have a lot of respect for Keough, appreciate what he did for Niagara and the organization. So I made sure that I emphasized Keough Thomas when he scored those goals or assisted. And you know what? The crowd appreciated it. They recognized it, and they gave him a well-earned round of applause.
Would you be able to share with viewers, that are thinking maybe about getting into broadcasting for the first time?
I found this. I did some spring cleaning recently, and you'll appreciate this, Andrew, a lot. And this is, I'm sure you've heard it before, but it's something my dad wrote to me probably 20 years ago or more. Find something you love and figure out how to get paid for it. So I was a goaltender, played up to a pretty high level, had a cup of tea in junior B, was thinking about the scholarship route, but I always said if I can't play sports, I want to be able to broadcast sports. So I knew that in grade 10, that when I went to college, I was going to take broadcast journalism. And you got to love what you're doing. It has to be a passion. As you heard me say in the webinar the other day, I wake up with AM radio on and go to bed with AM radio on. Sports and news are my love. And if sports is something you want to get involved with, or anything you want to get involved with, never be afraid to learn. And you can learn something new every day and study. As I just told you about the whole NHL story I read the other day, I read those stories and take it in and know that the next interview I do with an NHL guy, I can maybe ask him about that. Hey, read it. So there's always preparation, always research. I mentioned the word the other day, be professional. But most importantly, be down to earth, be yourself, be humble. And I think the people you're interviewing, the people you deal with, the people you work with every day can and will appreciate that.
I can't wait to be able to see you in person again and just kind of pick your brain a little bit more, and really just to hear you announcing IceDogs games again. We can't wait for that day to come.
Andrew, thank you. And I want to ask you, as your first year as a media member, what surprised you the most, and what did you learn the most?
Wow, I've never been counter-interviewed. This is my first time. So this is cool. Thank you so much for asking. Well, one of the things I learned, I think the biggest thing I took into this whole thing this year when I decided to just kind of freelance cover the IceDogs was do it yourself. I got that from Nardwar. I actually can't remember his real name off the top of my head again.
Yeah, neither can I.
But you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
That guy went out and got interviews with people all across the music and entertainment world, all on his own. And he did a TED Talk in Vancouver, I believe, in 2011, which I found on YouTube. And the title of the talk was Do It Yourself. And he talked about how he was able to land interviews with Kurt Cobain, with Nirvana, of course, with Lady Gaga, Snoop Dogg, who loves him now. He's just like one of his buddies. Just all these people in entertainment, movies. And how did he get the interviews? He asked for them.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. I kind of just had to tell myself, like, no one's going to do this for me. I have to just kind of get out there and do it. And what I learned was, you have to just go up and ask somebody for an interview. And I got familiar with Jordan Musa, who was amazing. And I can't thank her enough for just allowing me to, as a kind of a new kid on the block, if you will. I mean, I'm 33, I'm not a kid anymore, but I still certainly feel a little young now. But she just said, yeah, come on down after games when you can, and we'll see what we can do for you. And I was able to interview Billy Burke after games, head coach of the IceDogs, get some player interviews in. When I was in college for broadcasting, and then I went into acting, one of the first things I learned was, again, it's contacts, it's who you know, but it's also who knows you. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that, people will, recognize me a bit more, and just not just because of what I do, but because of who I am. Like you mentioned, those human qualities that we all strive to have. I mean, that's something I take pride in more than, my talent or ability. I think that I just want to be a good, kind person, trustworthy person. And what surprised me the most, one thing I will say that surprised me, it's amazing how quick things can change. Perfect example, Keough Thomas, gold medal winning goal scored in the World Junior Tournament. Within days, hearing rumors of a trade, he's gone to Peterborough just like that. I mean, the highest of highs to not a low, but even Keough mentioned what a transition it was. But that's a taste of pro life, right? So it was amazing how it surprised me, I guess, how quick and how much closer I felt to that situation in a sense.
Yeah.
That trade, and how real it was, and how huge of a moment it was for Keough. Like, after not playing many minutes, he only played about 4.5 minutes in that gold medal game, and boom, just set the world on fire, if you will. But that was surprising to me, was how quick you can go from such a big high to I got to change my entire life now almost.
Another word you can take, and Keough's a perfect example, is this: attitude in all aspects of life. Keough had a great attitude. You said he went from being 30 minutes a game with the IceDogs to a few minutes a game on Team Canada. But I want to say what you did this year, one other thing that people are going to recognize, and athletes are going to recognize, and anybody in life is going to recognize: hard work pays off, or will pay off. So remember that. Keep up the good work. And as you said, hopefully see you at the arena soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rod. Thanks for I appreciate you put me on the spot. That's something to learn as we go, right? In
There you
broadcasting,
go.
you're going to be put on the spot when you don't expect it, and you got to be ready. So I hope I made some sense there, but no, that was great. So look forward to seeing you, no doubt about it, sooner or later, I hope.
All right, say bye to Sherman for me too.
Yeah, he's right below me. He's actually just passed out. I don't know if you can see him. He's got really, he's a lap dog, so he got nice and comfortable pretty quickly here. So which is good. I don't have to chase him around the house during this interview.
There you go.
Well, that's Rod Mawhood, ladies and gentlemen, announcer for the Niagara IceDogs. You can also check him out on 610 CKTB with the Niagara Sports Report on Sundays. Rod, if you want to tell us what time people can tune into that.
Show runs live 9 o'clock Sunday mornings, repeat Monday nights on 610 CKTB, Bell Media, Astral Media, iHeartRadio.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again, my friend, and can't wait to do this again soon.
Thanks, Andrew.